Good evening. This meeting of the Essex County Board of Freeholders is hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Okay. Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Jones.
Present.
Freeholder Luciano.
Here.
Freeholder Mercado.
Present.
Freeholder Pomares.
Here.
Freeholder Richardson.
Here.
Freeholder Siebel. Absent. Freeholder Timberlake. Absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Here. Please stand for the salute to the flag. Can I ask that Freeholder Richardson please lead us in the salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Ask this evening that we keep former Governor Brendan Byrne and his family in our prayers. Also, Dan Weiss, former Roseland Democratic Chair, and Jerry Moskowitz in our prayers. Thank you. I have before me certification from the clerk that this meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Mr. President, there are none.
Madam Clerk, are there any topics of discussion?
Mr. President, there are none.
Okay. Let's move then to the public comment on agenda items. Tonight's meeting is a Tonight's meeting is a combined conference board meeting, and we will vote on every item on the agenda. So if there is any member of the public who would like to comment on any agenda item, please come to the microphone, state your name and affiliation for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. Happy New Year to everyone. My name is James Harris. I'm here tonight as the president of the New Jersey Association of Black Educators. And want to just ask that as each one of these items on the agenda, particularly the ones that have to do with money, I would hope that the Board of Freeholders would want to ask the question as to how many of those individuals who are affected by the contract are in fact residents of Essex County, since we have a very high rate of unemployment. Second question I would want the board to ask is how many of those companies that are bidding for services and contracts with the county have African American personnel, and what level of personnel involvement do the companies have? What we have observed in the state of New Jersey, and not in Essex County is no exception, is very often contracts are given to people who do not have a diverse workforce. We're particularly concerned with those activities and programs that are voted that requires the involvement of unions, because we've discovered that some of the unions in Essex County are not racially diverse at all. And I would hope that the county would have enough concern to insist that going forward, that anyone who's looking for work to work contracts in Essex County would be required to have a diverse workforce. And I'm hoping, as a follow-up to last year's tremendous progress when we passed an ordinance that had to do with affirmative action and contractors, that the board members will be particularly engaged to make sure that we don't move back from that significant legislation. And the last thing I want to request, last year in December, the board passed an emergency resolution with the Corrections Educational Association for a $100 million contract for 5 years. I would want to know what progress or annual reporting is available, and exactly what has been accomplished according to the contract that was given. And the reason why I'm raising this question is that last year we had significant criminal justice reform, particularly as it related to bail reform. So it would seem that there would be a diminished number of individuals being housed in our jails because the number of people who were diverted out of the system was reduced significantly. And that's been something that's been talked about with great pride by not only the governor, but several of the legislators. So it would seem to me that we should have fewer people involved, and therefore the question is raised that the $5 million that was allocated get the results that was desired. And Mr. President Gill, I remember you having some concerns when that particular item was before you. You were wondering why it came so late and why you did not have an opportunity to vet it more carefully. So I think with 1 year's term, we should have some report on what happened with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. We'll be sure to follow up on that in the board's practice in writing.
Medina Cabbage. So many
I noted it before, but I just want to make sure that it was noted that Freeholder Johnson was here for the record. Thank you. Any other public comment on any agenda item? Okay, seeing none, if there's any member of the public who would like to comment on any issue, please come to the microphone and state your name and affiliation for the record. Again, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that there is no one wishing to speak at this time. We will move to ordinance and resolutions on introduction and first reading. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinance or resolution for introduction and first reading?
Mr. President, we have 3. The first is ordinance 2018 cap bond ordinance for $18,150,000.
Mr. Jackson, can you please explain ordinance number 1?
Yes, Mr. President. We have a bond ordinance in the amount of, again, $18,150,000, $4.75 million for county highway improvements, $3 million for county building improvements, and $10.4 million for county parks improvements. As you're aware, the administration sat down with members of the board to go through this itinerary of items, and it's the same items that we went through during those meetings. And I should also note that the balance of the money, the $1.85 million, will be going to the county college. And Mr. Varghese and also Mr. Acker here as well, if you need additional questions or information.
Thank you.
As well as Mr. Salvanti, excuse me.
Thank you. He wasn't getting off that easy. Mr. Parlavecchio.
I don't have any questions on this.
Mr. McInerney, any questions or comments?
We sat down with the administration and had access to the nomenclature of what these amounts are allocated for. One of the original concerns was the amount of monies being allocated for roads and bridges. We did receive from the state of New Jersey through the DOT grant $10 million that will take care of a substantial part of that cost for roads and bridges. In addition, it's my understanding also that the state may be giving us additional monies for the same purpose. So, you know, you see a lot allocated here to parks. This is the $20 million annual authorization that we put in place some years ago at the beginning of the DiVincenzo administration. But kind of don't be fooled by it. There is a significant amount of money that is going to be expended for capital improvements on roads and bridges that is not included in here and is not funded by the county. This is $18,150,000. It's my understanding also it requires a 5% down payment, so the bond issue will be $17,275,000. You know, beyond that, I have no other questions.
Excellent. Freeholders, any questions or comments? Sure. Hearing none, why don't we also take number 2 and number 3, and then we can vote on ordinances 1, 2, and 3 together. Mr. Jackson, can you please explain ordinance number 2?
Ordinance number 2, Mr. President, is establishing the 2018 fee schedule for our parks and recreation facilities. And Mr. Salvanti and his team are here to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Parlavecchio, do you have any questions?
No, not at this point.
Mr. McInerney, any questions?
No, I have no questions on these, Mr. President.
Before I ask the freeholders for any questions or comments, Mr. Salvanti, is there anything that you would like to highlight for the record?
Dan Salvanti, Director of the Essex County Park System. Mr. President, these are just various small changes in our fee ordinance. Again, they're across the board in several different areas. The total amount of revenue that we'll generate with these fee ordinances is approximately $175,000 in our revenue stream. I also have Mr. Tim Chris here, Director of Golf Operations, if you have any questions on those fee ordinances. Ms. Tara Cassell, Director of the Environmental Center. Also, Steve Ruggiero is with us, Director of the Cody Arena, and our Deputy Director, Kate Hartwick, and also Mike Kerr, Director of the Zoo, to answer any questions you might have on any of those ordinances.
Freeholders, is there any questions or comments on ordinance number 2? Okay, Madam Clerk, hearing none, I'm actually going to take 1 and 2 together, and we'll do number 3 on its own.
Okay.
So can I, do I have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance number 1 and number 2? Moved by Freeholder Richardson.
I'll second it.
Second by Freeholder Luciano. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones. Yes. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder Timberlake, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to ordinance number 3. Madam Clerk, can we please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 3, amendment to County Ordinance O-23-00014, and as amended by Ordinance number O-2016-0007, and Ordinance number O-2016-0026 to allow for the sale and serving of alcohol, beer, and wine only at Verona Boathouse effective July 1st, 2018.
Mr. Jackson, can you please explain the ordinance?
Mr. President, this is an ordinance that will allow consumption for certain events, and again, Mr. Salvanti and his team are here to answer your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Salvanti.
Dan Salvanti, Director of the Essex County Parks Department. Mr. President, we're asking to be able to sell alcoholic beverages at the Verona Boathouse. That would be through the successful winner of our bid on our food operations there. One of the things we find out is when we do put our proposals out, we don't get a tremendous amount of responses. And in discussing with some of the individuals that have not bid, they seem that the alcohol would help them be able to recoup enough money after paying the county and also providing a service to the community. If you compare it to Turtleback Zoo, when we allowed it at Turtleback Zoo, total sales for the alcohol at the zoo was approximately $14,000. I don't see this being a tremendous turnover, but it's a nice service to provide. It would be confined, just like at the zoo, to the exact area. You would not be able to walk around the park with any alcoholic beverages. You'd have to consume it right there at the concession area.
Mr. Parlavecchio, any questions?
No, I don't have.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders, any questions or comments?
Well, first of all,
Freeholder Jones.
Mr. President, I have a concern, the same as it was last year. I do not believe in selling alcohol in county properties or the parks or whatever, because you're waiting for an accident to occur, because you're dealing with a mixed group of people. And especially the concern for me is young people walking around with somebody who is inebriated, and of course, one of these children get hurt. Who are we going to hold responsible? The business, the county, or the parents? That's my concern, so I will not be supporting this ordinance.
Mr. President, as I mentioned, they'd be set up the same format as we have in Turtleback Zoo, where the successful operator would be responsible on the insurance side. They would also have to secure a state liquor license through the state, and again, that was the same format we utilized at Turtleback Zoo. Worked with the county council, so as far as the requirements, all fall back on the operator of the facility.
Freeholders. Freeholder Luciano.
Thank you, President Gill. Just want to put on record that I'm the district freeholder that represents Verona Park. I have a deep deal of respect for my colleague Freeholder Jones, as I've served with her for over the last 3 years. I just want to put on record for the other freeholders, members of the public, and the administration, that while I definitely can see your concern, I, as the district freeholder, wholeheartedly support the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages. I know these professionals are professional, just like other professionals in other bars, restaurants, and establishments. They know when someone has had too much consumption. They know when to cut them off. They have to go through training. It is a nice touch for our parks and our zoo to have the opportunity to spend some time there, whether it's with a date or casually with friends, and have a beverage or two, adult beverage or two. So I will be supporting this motion, and I will move it to support alcoholic beverages in Verona Park, but I am as concerned as any citizen would be to make sure that our county council covers the basis of legality, to make sure that the vendor is responsible of hiring the proper staffing, to make sure that they're also not serving not just folks that have maybe consumed too much, but also underage individuals that may attempt to purchase alcoholic beverages. And if we have that assurance, I wholeheartedly support this. But I do want to put on record that I respect your opinion, Freeholder, and we will do, at least under my tenure as a Freeholder, our due diligence to make sure that everyone's safe in county facilities.
Freeholders.
One question.
Ms. Parlavecchia.
Mr. Jackson, I don't know if this is for you or for Mr. Salvanti. How long have we served alcohol, wine and beer at Turtleback Zoo? Has it been a year or 2 years?
I believe that for Mr. Salvanti.
Mr. President, we started in 2016.
Okay. Have there been any incidents, meaning any infractions against the license holder there?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. Has it been a success? You mentioned how much the sales were. Has that just been
I'm sure the
liquor
vendor
sales?
would like to do more sales, maybe,
Right.
but I think it serves, because there's a lot of times when you go there in the afternoon, you know, families sitting down with the kids, the parents, everybody's at the table, and, you know, they're enjoying maybe a wine with their lunch or maybe a beer. And again, I just want to emphasize, it's not like there's bottles on tables and so forth. Everything has to be poured, put in a cup when they're serving it as well. So it's not like beer bottles that you just roam around the top of the food area at the zoo. But, you know, there are people sometimes, maybe the kids have worn the parents out to a point, and, you know, maybe dad stays behind and watches the football game and has a beer up on the deck.
But it's
we've
contained
noticed
to
that.
It's contained to
It's
that
all
area.
contained to the second
The way
floor.
a restaurant would be contained.
Correct.
And no incidents. to-
Nothing has been reported to us.
Thanks.
And Ms. Savante, I'm sorry, one final question, and it's the hours of operation of the park.
Correct. So it's actually, they're set and established in the food bid spec, so those are the only hours that you could sell it.
Right. Any other comments or questions? Freeholders? Anything else, Ms. Parlavecchio,
No other questions.
about the liability that you'd like to speak to?
No, I think Mr. Salvanti hit it. It's something that'll be licensed. It's a state liquor license. The local and state authorities can take action if there are any violations, going as far as suspension and revocation of that license if there are problems. Obviously, if there are any local issues, police could be involved. Sheriff's officers who police Verona Park as well as Turtleback Zoo could certainly interdict any issues that go on there. But it sounds like it's contained to an area similar to the way a restaurant would have maybe outside seating or inside seating contained and monitored. So I don't have any other questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parlavecchio. Maybe through you, Mr. Jackson, we could, if this is to pass at an appropriate time, receive some type of update, for the board, just hearing some of the concerns out there, based on how the vote goes. But I think if it does pass, an update to the board on how it's going, et cetera, would make some sense.
Absolutely, Mr. President.
Freeholders, do I have a motion or a second to introduce this ordinance?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Moved by Freeholder Luciano, seconded by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Timberlake, absent. Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
No.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Moving on, Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for listing purposes only?
Mr. President, we have none.
Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinance resolutions on second reading and public hearing tonight?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolution number 1. Please read it for the record.
Resolution number 1, Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Management and Budget, 2018 Temporary Capital Budget.
Mr. Jackson, could you please explain the resolution?
Yes, Mr. President. As you know, we have, for 2018, we have capital items that we need to get moving on, and this budget will allow us to do that, and Mr. Acker is here to explain.
Mr.
Thank you,
Acker.
Robert. Mark Acker, Director of Department of Administration and Finance. By virtue of the fact that we have not yet introduced our official 2018 budget, in order for the bond ordinance to proceed, we have to adopt a temporary capital budget. The temporary capital budget mirrors exactly what is in the ordinance. And again, this will allow us to continue the introduction and adoption of the bond ordinance.
Very good. Mr. Parlavecchio.
No questions.
Mr. McInerney.
Just that Resolution 1 is the authorization to spend, and Ordinance 1 is the ability to fund that spending.
Freeholders, questions or comments? Do I have a motion or a second? And a second.
Move it.
Moved by Freeholder Richardson.
I'll second, Mr. President.
Second by Freeholder Pomaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Timberlake, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Madam Clerk, we're going to now go a little bit out of order. We're going to entertain resolutions number 30 and 31, which all deal with the 2018 budget and fall under the Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Management and Budget. Please read number 30 and 31.
Resolution 30, Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Management and Budget, resolution amending 2018 temporary budget. Resolution 31, Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Management and Budget, reserve transfer resolution.
Mr. Jackson, can you please explain number 30 and 31?
Mr. President, again, these are two items related, one related to our temporary budget, another is a transfer, and again, Mr. Acker is here to explain.
Again, thank you, Robert. Mark Acker, Director, Department of Administration and Finance. The amendment to the temporary budget is in the amount of $1,500,000, which the executive intended to include in his budget to allow the Sheriff's Department to start to replace their police vehicles, and they're anxious to start the procurement process. So this amendment would allow them to proceed with the procurement process for $1,500,000 in police vehicles. The transfer resolution is a small $25,000 transfer resolution in the 2017 budget. As you're aware, for the first 3 months of the new year, we're able to transfer amongst appropriations in the prior year. And this is a result of special elections, Nutley for one, that the Board of Elections did not have the funding for. This would allow them to continue to pay the bills. Again, it's a small $25,000 transfer.
Understood. Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
Just keep in mind that this is the temporary budget. We're amending the temporary budget. It has nothing to do with the introduced budget that we'll get. This is only the temporary budget so that spending can be maneuvered right now in order to accommodate the purchase of those vehicles. But once we adopt the budget, this all goes away, the temporary budget. It's all incorporated in the adopted budget. So we're not making any changes to the budget that we got the other day. This is just an ability to spend in the temporary budget.
Freeholders, any questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado, second.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Timberlake, absent. Freeholder Seabold, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson?
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares?
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado?
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano?
Yes.
Freeholder Jones? Yes. Freeholder Johnson?
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill?
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we're going to, since the best thing for a brand-new president is to move around the agenda, we are going to move to resolutions number 5 and 6.
Mr. President, just for clarification for the record, that vote was on 30 and 31 together.
Yes.
Okay. And we're moving to where now?
We are going to resolution, let me hop back, my apologies. We're withdrawing, my understanding, we're withdrawing number 2, has been withdrawn, resolution number 2 by the administration. But since we're still in administration and finance, we can do number 5 and number 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. And these items deal with various financial counsel and services that we received. And again, Mr. Acker is here to explain.
Thank you, Robert. Again, Mark Acker, Director, Department of Administration and Finance. Typically, we go out in the fall to secure qualifications from professional firms that can provide bond counsel services and financial advisory services. We did that through our Department of Purchasing in November. We received 7 bond counsel qualifications and 4 financial advisory qualifications. All have been deemed to be appropriate, and we are establishing a pool of those 7 bond counsel and 4 financial advisory firms. As we move through the year 2018 and engage in our several financings, we have a pool established that we can use to pick either the bond counsel or the financial advisory firms.
Mr. Parlavecchio?
Yeah, I can speak certainly as number 5 with the bond counsel services. It's a highly specialized area of the law, so to have a pool of these professionals available to us for the various issuances throughout the year is very helpful. And I think over the last number of years, the county has really kept a cap or placed a cap on what the transaction costs are for these. It used to be tied to the amount of the issuance. Now it is capped, as it says in the resolution, at $50,000, not to exceed $50,000 per transaction. So I think we're getting good value for these services.
Mr. McInerney?
Just a question, weren't these 80,000 last year?
No, Frank. We changed the cap a couple years ago to 50,000.
Questions or comments? Freeholders? Do I have a mover and a second for resolution number 5 and 6?
I'll
Move.
second.
Moved by Freeholder Johnson, second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo absent. Freeholder Timberlake absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Excellent. We're also going to go out of order now to satisfy a request from the Office of County Counsel, and we will now entertain resolution number 32. Please read number 32 for the record.
Resolution 32. Office of County Council, resolution of the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Essex authorizing the execution and delivery of a contract of sale for the property donated by the City of Newark to the County of Essex.
Mr. Jackson?
Mr. President, County Council Gassion is here to explain this item.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Courtney Gassion, Essex County Council. Just on a personal note, my warmest welcome to our 2 new freeholders. I look forward to working with both of you. This is resolution number 32. It is a request for the approval by the board to enter into a contract of sale with the City of Newark. The City of Newark, by ordinance dated December 6, 2017, took possession of an abandoned property located at 49 9th Avenue in the City of Newark. The city has determined that they will be transferring this property over to the County of Essex for the purpose of expanding and enhancing the area surrounding the new Donald Payne Vocational School that is currently under construction in the City of Newark. This is one of several properties that we have come to the board before to obtain from either private property owners or, in several instances, also the City of Newark for, again, the enhancement of the property surrounding the new vocational school. Happy to take any questions.
Mr. Parlavecchio?
Yeah. Ms. Gassion, this is coming to the county from the City of Newark. They've taken title to the property?
They have. This property was listed on their abandoned property list. They took possession earlier, late last year, and then the City Council approved the transfer to this, as I said, to the county back in December.
Okay, so it's on the abandoned property list, no tenants, no residents of this property?
Before they move to take possession, it is determined that the property has been abandoned, so there was no residence in the property at the time that the city took possession.
Thank you.
Mr. McInerney? Freeholders? Freeholder Jones?
I just want to be happy that you included Newark in that eminent domain, because that was some of the concerns that I had when we were sending out for private consultants to do the City of Newark work, because they are prepared through their department and governmental agencies to do that type of work. So as long as Newark is aware of what is going on around the school or the community, then I will support it.
Thank you, Freeholder.
Freeholders? Do I have a mover and a second? Moved by Freeholder Jones.
Mr. President, I'll second.
Second by Freeholder Pomares. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Timberlake absent. Freeholder Sebo absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder McCardle.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes,
So moved.
thank you. We're going to do another one out of order?
Through you, Mr. President, administration, are you requesting that Resolution 7 be the next resolution read?
If that's agreeable with you, Mr. President, thank you.
Absolutely not. Got to sit through the entire meeting. That's no problem at all.
Okay.
Resolution number 7, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 7, the Office of the Essex County Clerk contract with Reliance Graphics to provide printing services for election materials for 2018 and 2019, amount not to exceed $1,049,528.
Chris Durkin, Essex County Clerk. Through you, Mr. President, I am here tonight requesting the approval of a contract for election printing for the County Clerk's Office, two-year contract. This went out to bid. This proposal went out to bid, 34 downloads through our portal to look at the specs. There was one bid that came back, one bid. That bid was Reliance Graphics. Reliance Graphics is an Essex County-based company. It has 4 employees, 3 of which reside in Essex County, a husband, a wife, and a son. They do all needed election printing for the clerk's office. I can speak through experience as they have been our vendor, that they are professional, that they understand fully the timetables and the deadlines of election printing. And I have Joe Federley, who is a representative of Reliance Graphics, here with me tonight.
Thank you, Mr. County Clerk. Ms. Parlavecchio.
I don't have any questions. Thank you. No questions.
Mr. McInerney.
You want to call the vendor?
Would you like to call the vendor up?
Yes, sir.
Board President. Joseph Federley from North Caldwell. We work out of Verona, and we've been doing Essex County's ballots for over 20 years. And any questions you have, please. I'm right here.
Also, Madam Clerk, recognizing Freeholder Timberlake, who is now here. Freeholders, comments or questions?
Can you explain the work that you do in more detail?
We are in charge of printing the actual, designing the ballot faces for the sample ballots, mail-in ballots, provisional ballots, machine ballots, and emergency ballots. And then we...
Could you speak into the mic? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sorry. And then we print said ballots for the general election and primary election. I apologize.
Okay, so you print the ballots that are mailed to everybody's house?
Mail-in ballots, yes.
Mail-in ballots. Okay.
Sample ballots, also mail-in
And
ballots.
sample ballots as well,
if someone
Mr. Durkin?
requests them.
Okay. Thank you.
Freeholder Luciano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to put on record, since I've been on this Freeholder board since 2011, I've known Reliance Graphics. They've done an excellent job. I just wanted to also reiterate that the business is located in my district of Verona, and the employees that our county clerk, Chris Durkin, mentioned also live in my district, which I know is very important to this Freeholder board, as they always make mention and ask our vendors, you know, where are you located and do you employ folks from the district. So I'll be wholeheartedly supporting this. But I did also want to make a note for the administration, for the rest of the Freeholder board's members. While we're on this subject, I'm going to put it on record. I know I spoke to the county clerk about this, is that I do believe over the next 2 or 3 years, we have a dire need of taking a serious look at our election process, our machines, our ballots, and everything that's going on here in Essex County. This year alone, we had many issues out in the field with some of the things that we just can't afford to have going forward, especially as we move into big year elections like 2020, which will be another presidential. And I know that a lot of this election material, believe it or not, is a big portion of our county budget, and it's a heavy lift. So if we are going to make some changes and we want to do some upgrades, we would need to start planning now budgetarily to be able to afford something different in the next couple of years. But again, that's a discussion we could have during our budget hearings, but I wanted to make sure that I made mention of that so we can all start to get that ticking in the back of our mind. But as far as Reliance, we wish you the best. I hope your contract's approved, and you've done great work. Thank you.
Freeholder Richardson.
So my question is, let me just be clear, make sure that I got it right. You said Reliance has been doing this for 20 years for the county?
Yes.
So is it typical that no one else bids against you?
No, it's not. It's not typical. People do. Sure.
There are three companies primarily. Chris Durkin, Essex County Clerk. There are three companies primarily throughout the state that do the ballot printing for all the counties. I agree. It should be opened up, and we do obviously put it out to bid. But to get one proposal, we are left. Although it is a great proposal and a reputable company, no other companies bid on the election printing for the counties that already have it. They don't. They're not. We haven't had, since I've been the county clerk for 11 years. We have not had another. It's usually a 2-year contract, and we have not had another bid opposing election graphics. I mean, Reliance Graphics. Election Graphics is another company that does ballot printing throughout the state. So I would say it's the three companies. There's Royal Printing out of Hudson County.
Hudson County.
There's Election Graphics out of Essex County. And there's Reliance Graphics out of Essex County. And they do all of the ballot printing for the 21 counties in New Jersey.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions or comments? Do I have a mover and a second?
So move.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado. Do I have a second?
Mr. President, I'll second.
Second by Freeholder Palmaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel, absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, we will now take resolutions number 8 through 16. I'm going to ask that you read resolutions number 8 through 16.
We'll come back here.
And we have to do resolution 3.
We'll come back.
Okay. Read resolution 8 through 16. Okay?
Unless we can read it into the record at a later time.
We can do that. And then we just ask him to explain.
Okay, sure. We'll read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson, why don't we work through resolutions number 8 through 16, starting with resolution number 8.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I just wanted to, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you and Madam Clerk and the board for allowing us to be a little bit more flexible tonight on the agenda. Hopefully we'll be a little bit more numeric next time. We appreciate your flexibility. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Item 8 is a professional services agreement for the provision of inpatient, outpatient, and emergency room medical services for a hospital center for 2018, and Director Del Gaudio is here to explain.
Good evening. I'm Frank Del Gaudio, Director, Essex County Hospital Center. This resolution is for this would be the 4th year of a contract with Robert Wood Johnson. Barnabas Health. What it is, I could summarize it in a nutshell. We have 180 patients at the hospital center, and there are needs every now and then for either emergency services, inpatient services we can't provide at the hospital. Basically, we provide the mental health services, they provide the medical services. We also do have in-house clinics in the hospital, and we expanded the contract last year and took full advantage of that contract to bring in a board-certified cardiologist to see our patients in the hospital. Dr. Hawthorne's been with us for over a year now, and he sees anywhere from 25 to 30 patients a month at the hospital center. This is also part of the contract. He's a Robert Wood Barnabas affiliated physician. We also have Tamara Cunningham here from Barnabas Health to explain more about how the contract works. It's been working very well over the past 4 years, and we're looking to renew this contract for an additional year.
Thank you. Would you like to bring up?
Yes.
Ms. Cunningham to expand?
Good evening. Thank you very much. Are there any questions regarding the particulars in terms of the agreement? In essence, any care that is rendered at one of our facilities or by our physicians is basically accounted for through their insurance or by the county hospital at the Medicare rate. So if an individual required an appendectomy, per se, they would come to usually Clara Moss Medical Center, receive their care, and then be discharged back to the county hospital. Any questions?
Questions or comments, freeholders?
I have a question, Mr. President.
Mr. McInerney?
There's a provision in the inpatient services saying it's 21% of the hospital charges for inpatient care. And then for outpatient care, it's 20% of the RWJ Barnabas Hospital charge. Is there a difference between those two charges? Are there two different schedules, or is that just something that's, worded differently?
Well, you have in terms of the hospital inpatient,
Right.
you have the equivalent in terms of a Medicare. And so what they did was do a computation to determine what percent of charges would be equivalent in terms of the Medicare payment. The same was done for the outpatient fee schedule.
So there's no difference between
No.
the schedules used for inpatient or
Right.
outpatient?
You have a charge sort of schedule, and then what is the payment, and the charge schedule gets applied different rates. So you might have Horizon pay one particular, say 125% of such
Right.
charges, the equivalent to Medicare. They may pay 33% of the hospital charges. So what we did was calculate the equivalency of a Medicare payment based off of the charges.
Okay, but is this but on inpatient, the county is paying
Right.
21%, and that's it, of the hospital,
Correct.
of the scheduled charge. And on outpatient, the county is paying 20% of the hospital schedule,
Correct.
which is Medicare. Okay.
Because on the charge schedule, that's about the equivalent of what the Medicare payment would be.
Well, Mr. McInerney, I'm not sure, can you just say, I'm not sure I followed your concern, the line of question.
There was a reference to inpatient charges being 21% of the hospital schedule. And then on outpatient, it was 20% of a schedule described as the RWJ St. Barnabas schedule. I was concerned that there were two different schedules because they were labeled differently. What they're saying is, no, it's the same schedule.
Right. You just have
It's just that
one.
they labeled one hospital, and they labeled the other one Robert Woods Johnson, St. Barnabas schedules.
Right.
Both the same. I'm assuming they're the same.
Correct, and
Your name again?
actually.
I'm sorry, your name again for the record.
Tamara Cunningham.
Yep.
I'm the Vice President, System Development Planning for RWJ Barnabas Health. It's based off of the Clara Moss charge schedule, and that's how Finance developed this particular contract.
Okay, but again, for the record, it's just, we're talking about the same schedule.
Correct.
Both for inpatient and outpatient. That's all I want.
Okay. Mr. Palovecchio?
No questions.
Freeholders, any further comments or questions? Do I have a mover and a second for resolution number 8? Moved by Freeholder Johnson.
Mr. President, I'll second.
Second by Freeholder Primaris. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Primaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Madam Clerk, we will move to resolution number 9. We can leave it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, this is a contract to award SHI International Corporation for the purchase of some web-based licenses for our jail management system, and Director Ortiz is here to explain.
Good evening, Freeholders. Alfaro Ortiz, Director, Essex County Correctional Facility. I'm here tonight to lend my support and ask for your approval for this particular contract for our jail management system. For those of you that don't know, it is the computerized program that manages all the detainees, inmates, and everybody that's under our charge. It tracks their housing status, their custodial status, their medical status, everything that we need to know about them. So it's a very important part of our operation. We have a current system, it's outdated. I have with me Mr. Tim Miller, who can explain a little bit more as to how that happens, but it's something that's essential to our orderly operation. Mr. Miller.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. President, County Council, Freeholders. My name is Tim Miller. I'm a Regional Sales Manager for Global Telling. DSI, which is the software supplier, is a wholly owned subsidiary of ours, and I'm here to address any questions if I can.
Can you expand a little bit further on the contract?
The contract, the primary focus of this contract is to update and replace software that's 13 years old at the correctional facility. And since we're essentially bringing it up to speed, so now it can interface with web services and other technologies that the correctional facility is bringing in. The current software doesn't do that, or the lift to do so is so hard. We are the largest provider of jail management software in the United States. We're also the largest provider in New Jersey. Many counties in New Jersey are going through the same type of upgrade as well.
Okay. Mr. Palovecchio.
Yes, since this is an upgrade to this existing system, is there any downtime, or how long does this conversion take?
This is actually a heavy lift. There is no downtime. The way we do it is to ensure there's no disruption at the correctional facility. It's very difficult to run a correctional facility, especially of your size, without software being in operation. Right. So we're experiencing having to do that type of upgrade. It will take at least 10 months to do this, minimum. We end up spending a lot of our personnel sending them down here, putting them in hotels, feeding them, all that kind of stuff. We work directly with the correctional facility and the experts that reside there, and literally go through every single step from the time an inmate comes into a correctional facility, from the time they leave. Everything that they do is measured in this software. This software is going to give you new efficiencies and streamline a lot of the activities you're doing today, better reporting capability and tracking. So it's a very positive thing.
Okay, and it's able, even though it's a 10-month process, we're able to do that without interruption.
That's correct.
Facility. Thank you.
Mr. McInerney.
This also includes the licensing cost?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This turnkey completely.
Okay, is that for 1 year, or is there, after this contract expires, is there a licensing cost that continues afterwards?
There is, no, there isn't in your case. Usually there's an annual maintenance associated with it, which then kicks in after year 2, usually typically. However, and one of the things I wanted to say in the beginning is we provide other services at the correctional facility. We've had a long historic relationship with Essex County, so the pricing you see here today is highly discounted, and there is no reoccurring cost.
It's highly just because you're basically, you have, like you're already there.
I'm already there.
Okay.
We have other services. We take that in consideration.
Okay, but just so I understand, the license is included, and if
Yes.
we continue to use the software after the date of the contract, there is no licensing fee after that point.
That's
We
correct.
continue to use the software.
That's correct.
There may be a maintenance charge if we need you, but other than that.
There is no licensing fee. Nope.
Okay. Does this also include the cost of training and, like you said, the expenditures of having people come in?
Complete turnkey for my personnel to come down and sit with your folks and train them from the very beginning, from a project plan all the way through every step and mechanism and process you have at the correctional facility from the day till the time we go live at your facility with the new software.
Good. Okay. One other question. Does this deal with the transfer of clients between the jail and Delaney Hall, and also deal with things like, the state inmates or the federal marshal inmates?
Yeah, yes. I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, when Ortiz, director, when they're at our institution, our management system manages them. GL, which is Delaney, has their own, but we do sign them out to over there. But they have their own system. With regard to federal, ICE, and reentry, they're still in our institution, so they stay under the umbrella of this particular system.
Okay, but so does this system interface with the invoicing that has to be done to the federal government on ICE?
That's what we use it for. That's exactly one of the specific uses.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Freeholders, comments or questions? Seeing or hearing none, do we have a mover or a second?
So moved.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado. Second?
I'll second it.
Freeholder Luciano. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo. Absent Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to resolution number 10. We'll read it into the record at a later time since we moved around a lot tonight, Madam Clerk. And Mr. Jackson, please explain for the record.
Mr. President, this is a professional service contract for medical services consultant to the Department of Corrections. And again, Director Ortiz is here.
Alfaro Ortiz, Director, Essex County Correctional Facility. Once again, I'm here in support of this particular initiative. Dr. Shansky has been our longtime consultant with regard to our health care. We maintain an excellent rating with NCCAC, American Correctional Association. Everything that we do, he comes in bi-monthly, and he investigates, audits, checks everything that is done medically for those under our charge so we can maintain the highest standards. I recommend that this be renewed and approved.
Thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio.
Yeah, Dr. Shansky has been acting in a capacity since the correctional facility, former correctional facility, even was under federal consent order. And he used to be at a much higher number under court order. I think he assisted the correctional facility very much in becoming certified, and seems he's, how often does he come?
He comes every other month for 3 days at a clip, and he does whatever we ask him to do or whatever has to be done.
Yeah, and I think his contract used to be, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 times this amount.
Correct.
Mr. McInerney?
I don't have any questions.
Freeholders?
For 3 days.
Mover?
He works in it 4 times.
We have a mover for
Mr.
resolution.
President, I'll move it. Or second.
Moved by Freeholder Pomaris.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Richardson. Vice President Freeholder Richardson.
I know, I'm still trying to do that.
Roll call, Madam.
Freeholder
Clerk.
Sebol, absent. Freeholder Timberlake,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving to resolution number 11. Madam Clerk will read it into a record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, Mr. President. Items 11, 12, 13, and 13 are with our Department of Parks. This one deals with open space and also the Rutgers Cooperative, and Mr. Zates is here to explain.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Through you, Mr. President, number 11 is an allocation from the Open Space Trust Fund to fund the Rutgers Cooperative Extension Program. It's a program the county has been partnering with Rutgers since, I believe, the mid-90s. This is just the funding mechanism. We will come back to the board at a later date with the actual contract.
Mr. Jackson, why don't we do 12 and 13? Through you. We can read them into the record at a later time. Why don't we do 12 and 13?
Sure. Items number 12 and 13 are related. Number 12 is actually the funding mechanism for number 13. 12 is the allocation from the Open Space Trust Fund of $174,600 for the Verona Park Tennis Court Improvement Project. Just to give the board a little insight into what the project entails, it's going to be the removal and replacement of asphalt surfaces, going to include tennis court accessories, decorative fences, water fountains, trash receptacles, miscellaneous drainage repairs, and selected tree trimming. And we do have a representative from the project to come forth.
Good evening. Mike Smith, Shore Top Construction. If you have any questions.
Can you tell us a little more, Mike, about the contract?
We're a small contractor from Farmingdale, New Jersey. We specialize in tennis courts. We do anywhere from 75 to 100 tennis courts a year, reconstruction. It is a specialty. It's not, there's probably 5 or 6 in the state that specialize in that kind of jobs. And we do everything ourselves. We have no subcontractors, which keeps a good control of our schedule.
Vecchio.
Yeah. Sir, how many courts are involved in this, and what is the type of work that you're doing for this project?
I believe it's 2 courts, and I think we're milling them out, repaving, putting a new fence up, and the color coding of the courts, and a few miscellaneous items.
Thank you.
Mr. McInerney.
I don't have any questions on this, Mr. President.
Freeholders, comments or questions? This is for 12, just as a reminder, this is for comments or questions on number 12 and 13 and number 11. Hearing or seeing none, without any objection, if we can have a mover and a second for number 11, 12, and 13 together.
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Freeholder Luciano and seconded by Freeholder Mercado.
Okay. Freeholder Sebol, absent. Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Moving to resolution number 14. We'll read it into the record at a later time, Madam Clerk. Mr. Jackson, resolution number 14.
Yes, Mr. President. Again, items 14, 15, and 16 are with the Department of Public Works, and Director Varghese is here to explain all three items. The first one is a bus stop designation.
Sanjeev Varghese, County Engineer. Resolution 14 is it's a concerning resolution to the resolution from the Township of Bloomfield for a bus shelter on Berkeley and Franklin Avenue. Item 14 is a professional services agreement. We have several underground storage tank locations which we had contaminations, and we are doing site remediation at those locations. And this particular contract is for 3 locations. One is Burn Golf Course, one is Orange Garage, and one here in Hall of Record in the parking lot. And actually one more of South Mountain complex at the composting facility. And we went out for request for proposals. There were 15 proposals. The state, the DEP requires us to have a licensed site remediation professional on board for all these projects. And Matt McDonald, formerly known as Hatchmont McDonald, was the LSRP, and they are still the lowest responsible proposer for this professional services agreement. And I have a representative from them here if you have any other questions for that particular contract.
Confused, did he jump to 15?
The last one is...
Now he's doing 16.
You're doing 16. So you, just,
the
for the
16
record, the engineer said 15, but he was, I'm sorry, he said 14, but he was actually referencing 15 in the description that he just gave. So now we're on 16.
Okay, thank you.
So item 16...
We're going to tighten this up for the next meeting. Thank you.
Item 16, the NJDEP made regulations stating that the county does wastewater management plan for all the towns within the county, and in our case we have 22 towns, and it has to be one wastewater management plan. And they gave us the grant 4 years ago to do this. Since then, they changed the rules, so they gave additional money, another $40,000. Again, Hatchmont was doing this from the very beginning, so we had to do a contract modification to add this $40,000 to their contract so that we can finish this job. Again, I have a representative from Hatchmont here if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio.
Yeah, just on 16, Mr. Varghese, that's being paid by additional grant money?
Yes, that is paid by additional $40,000 grant funds from DEP.
Thank you.
Mr. McInerney.
Yeah, 15 is, resolution 15 is paid out of capital, as well. So none of these hit the operating budget.
Questions or comments? Questions or comments on resolution 14? Do I have a mover and a second on resolution 14?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Mr. President, I'll second.
Freeholder Mercado, mover, and second Freeholder Palmaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel, absent. Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Paramus.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson. Yes. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a mover and a second on resolution number 15?
Move it.
Moved by Vice President Freeholder Richardson.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel. Absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Do I have a mover and a second for resolution number 16?
So move.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado. Second.
Second.
Second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones. Yes. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo, absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Going to move back to resolution number 3. Madam Clerk, for the record.
Resolution 3, Office of the County Administrator authorizing the renewal of county commercial property insurance policy for the Essex County Correctional Facility affiliated with FM Insurance Company for the period January 1st, 2018 through January 1st, 2019 at an annual premium of $367,997.
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Tim Walker, who's our Director of Risk Management, is here to address your questions on items 3 and 4.
Good evening, President, Vice President, Freeholder Board. Tim Walker, Director of Risk Management for the County of Essex. We're here seeking the authorization to renew the commercial property insurance policy for the Essex County Correctional Facility. The lowest bidding carrier was Affiliated FM. It was also the incumbent carrier. And as you just heard read, the premium is the amount of $367,997. And that represents roughly a 2.4% increase from the previous renewal. Any questions? Oh, also I have our broker from BGIA, Gregory, I hope I get this right, Durasadorian. Is that correct? He's here present as well.
Would you like to bring him up?
Sure.
Thank you for having me. Greg Durasadorian, Executive Vice President of BGIA, Business and Governmental Insurance Agency. Any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer.
Anything more that's already been put on the record? Would you like to expand anything more?
I'm sorry, could you speak up, please?
Would you like to expand anything more that's already been put on the record?
Just that with the cooperation of the risk manager here and the staff at the correctional facility, we were able to put together a stronger risk management plan, emergency flood response plan, which was able to help us in negotiations with the incumbent carrier and drive what originally came in as a 9% increase indication down to a 2.4, as he had stated earlier.
Thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio.
Yes. Were there any claims history issues or other factors that resulted in that 9% then reduced to a 2% increase?
Yes. As you're probably aware, back in 2012, we had a significant loss in excess of $6 million at the facility due to Sandy. And while the carrier had increased and reduced flood rate limits, we were able to get that negotiated back up. Unfortunately, when we started the negotiations for this renewal term, we had just experienced a very significant hurricane season, and we were still technically trying to figure out how devastating the results would be to the insurance carriers. So their first indication was to come out of the gate looking to give everybody an increase, so we had to justify why the correctional facility deserved better.
Thank you.
Mr. McInerney.
Within the policy, this is for the correctional facility. There was some mention of Delaney Hall coverage. Could you explain that? What kind of coverage we have there? There was something that was labeled the supply chain schedule that was mentioned that I'm kind of lost on. If you can explain that.
I think I could add a little on that. That was actually, if I'm not mistaken, this...
Your name for the record, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Name and
Tim
affiliation.
Walker, Director of Risk Management for the county. I believe that actually dealt with the flood barrier for the actual facility. And what had happened after Sandy, we had explored as a county some opportunities to prevent further damage in a similar loss. And one of the items that they looked at was putting up a temporary flood barrier that you can inflate, and it would protect the facility itself. That was something that was actually discussed and purchased, but it is yet to be, as I understand it, is yet to be set up at the facility.
So was I reading that in the next resolution, which is the flooding insurance?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, all right,
Probably.
so, but as far as commercial and personal property liability insurance, do we have any coverage on that? It wouldn't extend to Delaney Hall, correct? It's strictly our commercial property.
Yes.
That we have in our jail facility.
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that might extend to Delaney Hall is if there is a loss of income due to a loss that prevents us from retaining some kind of revenue from Delaney Hall, there is coverage for that within a $38 million limit.
I saw that, 38 million. That's the
That's
amount
our revenue that
we would lose. that we
yeah,
would be covered
in a
for.
total loss, you would lose $38 million for
And
an
that's
annual
covered
year.
under this policy?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Jump ahead to number 4.
Was there questions or comments?
Oh, okay.
On number 3. So just two quick follow-up questions. So we do this this is a yearly, we purchase this insurance on a yearly calendar year basis?
Yes, on an annual basis.
And if we were not to do it in this manner, what would potentially be the cost to the county?
If you were to do it without insuring it?
Right.
If you would
if we were
self-insure it?
right. Yes.
In the event of a massive loss like you had at Sandy, we would have no coverage from a third party, and that would have to come directly from the county.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
What is the diversity makeup of this firm?
I'm sorry, the diversity of the firm?
Yes. And
Do
do
we
you
have
partner
one?
with minority companies to help provide some of the service? Like, what do you
Actually,
do?
one of the team members, George Crosby, who works on the account directly, is a minority.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And to the President's question, with respect to if you were to self-insure, there's been a significant amount of engineering services that have also been provided by the insurance carrier. So that would be something that you'd also want to contemplate as an additional expense.
Was the cost increase for this year comparable to last year? On the fiscal impact on the county? I see it was
State check.
2.6% from last year's program. I mean, the county's overall cost increases by $10,000, 2.6 from last year's program. Is that in the same range that from the prior year?
Previous year? Yeah, again, Tim Walker, Director of Risk Management for the county.
Gonna have to have, I'm sorry, name and affiliation for the record again.
No problem. Tim Walker, Director of Risk Management for Essex County. And to answer that, last year's renewal also had roughly I believe it was a 3% increase, so it was actually a little better this year.
Okay. Any other further comments or questions? Do I have a mover and a second on resolution number 3?
So move.
Moved by Freeholder Mercado.
Second.
Second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel. Absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Moving to resolution number 4, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 4, Office of the County Administrator authorizing the county's commercial excess flood insurance policy with the Essex County Correctional Facility with Westchester Surplus Lines Insurance Company for the period January 1st, 2018 through January 1st, 2019, at an annual premium of $42,130.
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Walker again, Mr. President.
Tim Walker, Director of Risk Management for Essex County. This resolution deals with the excess flood policy also at the Essex County Correctional Facility and the renewal of same. It's also an annual policy, and the premium for this coverage came in at $42,130. It represented roughly a 2% increase from last year. Were there any questions?
Mr. Prolicchio?
No questions.
No. Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Comments or questions from the board? Seeing or hearing none, do I have a mover and a second?
Mr. President, I'll move.
Moved by Freeholder Primaris.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Mercado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo absent. Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move to resolutions 17 through 29, and which are accommodations, and I believe number 34. So 17 through 29 and number 34 are all commendations. And we're removing number 33, Madam Clerk. I'm actually asking a question.
Okay. No.
Okay, 33 is in. Okay.
We're going to do 33 and 34 and 35.
So 17 through 29 and number 34.
Mr. President, would you like me to read these into the record at a later time?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're at 33 and 34.
We need to take a vote on 7. You still have to vote on these, though.
Mhm.
Okay. So I have a mover and a second on 17 through 29 and 34.
I'll move it.
Moved by Freeholder Johnson.
I'll second it.
Second by Freeholder Jones. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo. Absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we will move to resolution number 33.
Resolution 33, the Office of County Administrator Contract Award to Scubell, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder to provide multifunctional government administrative software system, 24-month agreement, amount not to exceed $405,000.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes, Mr. President. As you know, we are moving aggressively to upgrade our software systems, support systems here in the county. This is another step. Mr. Hunt is here, our CIO is here to explain this element of our plan.
Carl Hunt, Chief Information Officer. This went out to bid. There were two response, Scuba and Superior. Scuba was the lowest bidder of both. There were 3 factors that we guaranteed Scuba to look at, which was time and attendance, human resources, and asset management. The total bid for both maintenance and purchasing of the software is $405,000. We did a study with 700 users just upon the time and attendance, and based upon that study that we did, we were able to save, predicted our savings of $192,000 per year just on paper. We never looked at what it would cost for printers or anything like that, and that was just for time and attendance. We could not do a study on HR because we did not have a program for HR in place as yet. We have Scuba here, which is a New Jersey-based MBA company.
Good evening. My name is Sharat Anamanini. I'm from Scuba. I'm a partner with Scuba LLC. We are a software company that provides development programs to local municipalities. We are a minority-owned business and also a small business enterprise. We provide services such as payroll softwares, HR software, asset management, financials, bookkeeping, and all the whole suite of the enterprise applications.
How many employees in your company?
We have 10 employees at present, and they're all based out of New Jersey.
And you're located in?
East Brunswick.
Middlesex County. Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. McInerney?
What is the time and attendance? Is that something that's maintained with any, at what point? Is it something that's inputted, or is it something the employee inputs?
There are
hand
different,
thing, or?
right. So there are different mechanisms of capturing the employee's time. One is through the biometric devices, which are the clocks.
Right.
And second is to the web, using your like a browser or a desktop. The third option is the mobile component, which is for the directors mostly when they are on field, they can use the mobile application.
So how is the county doing time and attendance? How do they proceed?
It's a combination. Majority of the employees are on the hand punch, and with the exception of few directors, they are on web as well as the mobile punch.
Okay, so does that now integrate with our payroll system?
That's the idea.
Currently, it does not interface with currently it does not interface with our payroll system. This is a plan as we're moving towards a new financial system. It will then tie into the new financial system.
So that we would be able to generate, accounting for an employee's, gross pay, based on hours worked or based on salary, and then also accumulate any time that he has for vacation or sick.
Correct.
So it does that?
Yeah, so it will have both for sick time, vacation, come times, that we're tracking all times by employee.
So that's real important. On the asset management side, the county has a requirement to keep a fixed asset schedule. And I think we've been doing it manually.
Yes.
Does this take the place of that?
Yes, this replaces the manual purpose.
So it has all the additions, it has all the deletions?
Correct. So it does it based upon barcode, and then for property, we'll be able to provide a sticker on the property.
Right. But before you can do that, you have to get the barcodes on every
Correct.
piece of furniture. We did do that years ago, but I don't know if that's been done. So is that part of this contract, to barcode all pieces of equipment?
The plan so far that I had in place was for anything moving forward as of this contract, but not necessarily going backwards.
back.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to come up with a beginning balance in your fixed assets that's based on whatever you have now as opposed to
Correct.
whichever in inventory.
Yes, I'll be working with the finance department on that piece of it.
Okay. And so this hand thing, there was no issue with the unions on that, or?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McInerney. That, Freeholder Richardson.
Yeah, my question, I heard you, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that all the employees are residents of New Jersey?
Right, that's right.
Are there any Essex County residents?
At this time, no.
Do you hire any African Americans, or you?
We do.
You have African Americans?
Not at this time, though. When there's a need be, we usually advertise in Star Ledger, and online websites like dice.com, monster.com, and depending on what we receive, we kind of like interview them, and then that's the process for selection.
What is the question? What is the profit margin on a contract like this?
Profit margin on this one?
On this contract?
On this contract would be about 20%.
20%. Ms. McInerney?
I had the same question for this software as I had on the last one, and that is that there's a licensing fee that is paid for within this contract?
That is correct.
Okay, and once this contract expires, in order to keep it, does that licensing fee have to be paid every year after that?
Again, that's optional because you're purchasing the software itself. So what's going to happen is after 2 years, you could use the software, the application the way it is. You don't have to pay any licensing fees going forward. But if you pay a licensing fee, what's going to happen is the system will be upgraded to the newest technology, be more secure because of the fact that you are hosting your employee information, sensitive information. So it's advisable, to upgrade to the newer versions. And
yeah, I would assume so. But it would still it doesn't cut off at the end of 2 years. You're still able to add employees.
Right.
Employees.
Absolutely.
It's just that the technology would
that
end
is correct.
at that point in time.
That is correct.
Okay. And is there a maintenance with this at all? Or is that included in
the maintenance for the contract, right?
Also, we'll own the intellectual property of this, so should in case they go out of business, we can pick up any other company that does development to help us move forward.
Is any of this information outside of the county's, computer systems?
Not, well.
So it's not on anybody else's site?
No.
Or?
Well, today it is, right, because we're testing it, so we're using it in his data center, but it will move on-site here or up in Azure. So
but everything's confidential, everything's being kept track of?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I might add two things. One is, this is Freeholder Turo, if you remember, sponsored legislation to have us fill out a form for voluntarily, but this is the first company, this is the first example. You'll see it in your backup of that form that we're going to use going forward so that our contractors can identify their employees and where they live. Also, too, what was my second point? I was going to make for you. I'm sorry. Yeah, we mentioned that they're an MBA. Oh, the other point I wanted to make, too, is that one of the reasons that strong factors for Schoolable was that Schoolable does all the work for the city of Newark. That does its financial management, its payroll. And they came highly recommended, and we spend a lot of time with the city of Newark evaluating their work there. So we felt very comfortable with going with them for this.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Do have a mover and a second for resolution number 33.
Move it.
Moved by Vice President Richardson,
Seconded.
second by Freeholder Timberlake. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo, absent. Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we will move to agenda item number 34. Excuse me, 35, excuse me.
Resolution 35, Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders, amendment to the bylaws of the Board of Chosen Freeholders.
And I can speak to that one, Mr. President. As you know, the bylaws govern the conduct of the business of the board. This is just more of a housekeeping issue. Over the last couple of years, we've augmented the way we conduct our meetings. Over decades, there was almost always 4 meetings per month. We've now done more combined conference board meetings like this one. This just updates those bylaws to reflect that more common change now that they are usually at least monthly.
Okay. Mr. McInerney? No questions. Freeholders, any questions or comments? Again, just to echo.
Will this be backdated to cover?
Freeholder
whatever-
Freeholder Timberlake.
They're just annual. No, it's not backdated.
All right.
Any other comments or questions?
And I'm thinking what you're asking. It's just, the bylaws call for 2 conference meetings, 2 board meetings. All I did in this was to spell out that a combined conference board meeting satisfies those things. It just clears it up a little bit.
Okay, but it's not to say that the way in which we were doing it before was?
No.
Okay.
No,
I
it
just
was
want to make sure to
improper.
put that on the record.
Yeah. After, it took me 30 seconds to digest your question, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, no.
Thank
This
you.
just clears it up.
So, I mean, essentially making sure that we are in compliance with the.
Right. And it better reflects what we've been doing.
So it better reflects what we're doing, or is it making sure that we're in compliance? Was the old language meaning that we were out of compliance? I want to put that on the record and be very clear.
No, it was not out of compliance.
Okay.
This just tightens up the definition by saying that the conference board meeting equals, or that a conference board meeting does equal 1 conference meeting and 1 board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So it
it's-
satisfies that we do those 2 conference meetings and 2 board meetings per month.
Thank you. So it's just a point of clarity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not a point of clarity. It's I just want to be clear here. It's making sure that we are compliant with how we are going to do the meeting schedule this year. It's not commenting on, it's not saying anything about the meeting schedule for prior. It's not doing anything with that. What it's making sure is that how we have set the meeting schedule for this year, that to the best of our ability, the code reflects and authorizes us to do it in that way.
That's correct, but it doesn't, but what I'm saying is, what we did in the past was not out of compliance,
Right.
but this...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do,
Yeah.
that's my point.
think
There's a lot
we're
of
all
things,
saying the same thing.
yeah, I mean, there are things if you were to go through the code, like retroactively, that you will find on all types of issues.
Yeah.
So as one as important as the meeting structure and the meeting schedule, I just want to make sure that it's more preventative, is my point, than anything else.
Yes.
If somebody wanted to challenge the legal authority of the board based on a decision it made, which I think I heard Freeholder Timberlake say, which is retroactively, meaning you pass this and someone challenges something that we did and says the board wasn't in compliant with its own code, are we subject to any potential liability going forward as a result?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I just want to make
Good.
sure, because as I read it, we were in compliance, but I understand this is clarification to make it more clear. So I just wanted to make sure that we were not out of compliance for previous years.
That's a fair point. 100%.
Because it was a question that I asked while I was president as well, so, but we didn't change any language. So while I was president, I was told that we could do the meetings the way we were doing them, and it was fine according to the bylaws. So I just want to make sure that that information, now that we are changing the bylaws, that was told to me is still accurate. And it's to my understanding from Mr. Polavecchio's explanation that it is indeed accurate. We were not out of compliance in previous years.
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Mover or second?
I'll move it.
Moved by Freeholder Johnson,
Second?
second by Freeholder Mikado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano absent. Freeholder Mercado.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Timberlake.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel absent. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if I may, I just actually had a question, just for the record, on 32, although it's already been voted on. And also wanted to put my vote on the record for those in which I was not present for.
You hear that?
No vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Affirmative.
All right.
Affirmative on,
Mr.
Although she
McInerney,
does
I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson, number 32,
you're
just a
saying?
point of clarity, was any
Affirmative,
eminent
although she
domain used?
Through you, Mr. President, no.
Okay, and not by Newark, not by the county?
The city of Newark, yes, but as part of its abandoned property list, but it was a vacant property.
APRA, the APRA list?
Yeah.
And what was the address of the property again, just for the record?
49 9th Avenue, I'm sorry. 49 9th Avenue.
Okay, was this property previously discussed in like other meetings? Is this one of the properties that was discussed last year?
I don't believe so, no.
Roof?
Yes.
I don't believe so.
For the record, I think it was because the county exec and the mayor and the councilman of the West Ward, that was a piece of property that was on the corner there that they were haggling over who was going to take it and clean the garage out, the garage that was full of debris, and it's right on that corner. So I know it was discussed here, and I know it was brought up in one of our meetings here, because we discussed it.
I think and at one point there was confusion about to whom the garage was owned, which property owned the garage, and it was whether the house right next door or the 9th Avenue house. And as it turns out, the 9th Avenue side is the one that owns the garage.
Okay, so it was only a garage there? Were there any residents that lived there or anything?
No, they were not.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I just needed a point of clarity for Resolutions 5 and 6. Mr. McInerney, what did per transaction exactly mean?
Say that again?
Per transaction for 5 and 6?
I'm not following. These 5 and 6 are the resolutions to award contracts for bond counsel?
Yes. It says not to exceed 50,000 per transaction.
Oh, that would be, okay. For bond counsel or the finance, that would be per issue. So per bond issue.
Okay.
When we go out for bonds, we hire a financial advisor and we hire bond counsel.
Okay.
So for each issue.
How many
we would hire.
transactions usually happen?
In a year?
Yes.
That all depends how often we go out for bonds. We may not go out for bonds for a whole year. So I wouldn't say it happens much, but probably 2 to 3 times a year. And there's notes that we also go out for as well.
Okay, thank you. For the record, Madam Clerk, through you, Mr. President, for ordinance number 1, please record my vote for ordinance and resolution on introduction and first reading as yes. For ordinance on resolutions, introduction and first reading, number 2, no. And for ordinance 3, for resolutions and introduction on first reading, no. And yes for resolution 1. I saw 2 was withdrawn by the administration. Yes for resolutions 3 through 6. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any added starters?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, report. Let's move to report of board committees. Freeholders, do we have any reports of board committees? Legislative reports. Written communication. Unfinished business. New business. Freeholders, do we have any new business to discuss?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I do have
Sure.
unfinished business. I just want to say for the record, again, that the legislation that we adopted for the affirmative action and joint venture, I think that time has come to where this should be in effect, and that questions in respect to my colleagues, of course, as appropriate, can start to be asked about which one, are there any joint ventures in this, are there any partnerships in this, so on and so forth. But I did appreciate seeing the minority vendor as presented by Carl, but I think that we still have a long way to go.
Any other new business? Freeholder Jones.
Mr. President, I would like to add on to Freeholder Timberlake State as a reference to affirmative action. Mr. Harris came before us during the time then the public could speak, and there were many questions that he asked that is very serious, and it's a great concern of the community as well as me. And what I'm asking, those questions should be addressed, and may he receive a copy to the answers of what is going on. And at the same time, I guess I'm still the affirmative action, I'm president, that all members receive that same copy, so we'll all be on the same page.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, and as noted on those questions that were raised, we will make sure to follow up in writing. Those answers will be shared with the board and with the members of the committee. Also, before we jump to public comment, it's probably a good opportunity to say that the clerk will be distributing the Freeholder Committee assignments proposed.
Mr. President, they have them in front of them.
Excellent. So we're looking forward to everyone's feedback on that in terms of the committee assignments for this year. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's go to public comment. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment on any matter, please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and affiliation for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President. To members of the board, James Harris, President of the New Jersey Association of Black Educators. First of all, I want to welcome the new board members, and I look forward to working particularly with the gentleman representing District 5, since I live in Montclair. I'd like to see a bit of you so that we can chat. Secondly, I would like to know who is going to be chairing the Affirmative Action Committee this term, and if I could know when they are meeting so that I can address some of these concerns before we get to this meeting. Listening to, and I really want to thank Freeholder Richardson and also Freeholder Timberlake for following up on some of the things that I asked the Freeholder boards to ask when those contractors were up. And here's what I'm concerned about. There were several people who got contracts that said they had people who, there was one company of 4 people. There was another company of a smaller group. And when I talked to both of them, they indicated that they had no African Americans employed. So it would seem to me a reasonable approach would be to approach these folks and see if they would be willing to offer internships for perhaps African Americans or others who might be interested in working in that area. They could be free internships or they could be paid internships, but this would be a way of getting some African Americans trained or knowledgeable, educated about the business that they do, and perhaps lead to further employment opportunities. So an internship, I would think that might be a consideration of the Affirmative Action Committee or the Freeholder Board to approach that. I was curious to know what is the affirmative action profile by race and gender of the Parks Department? Because I see a lot of activities taking place, a lot of contract work being done, but very often there's limited diversity of the workforce that's out there doing the parks and installing equipment and making changes. So specifically, I would like to zero in on that. And again, I'd like to make the suggestion that for all of the business, that perhaps the freeholder might want to come up with a policy that talks about the affirmative action impact statement of people who get contracts for the county. My primary thing is I'm a professional educator, but education without a job is not very refreshing, or, doesn't encourage people. And I know some of the work that's being done for the county can be done by a more diverse workforce. And I invite the County Freeholder Board to work with the New Jersey Association of Black Educators, the NAACP, and the Urban League and other organizations to see if we can get an improved profile. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Harris, you'll absolutely receive a response in writing, to those questions. As discussed, the actual board committees and assignments were distributed to the freeholders tonight, so we'll be getting some feedback, from the freeholders on the board assignments. I believe, as it currently stands, the Affirmative Action Committee is chaired by Freeholder Jones and is a committee of the whole on the board. I think looking forward to the work of that committee this year as we move forward, and would just take a point of personal privilege to say that one of the questions that was raised and one of the questions about in terms of one of the vendors, again, understanding and hearing from the administration that the vendor works for the city of Newark, and we have full confidence in the quality of the work. But again, on a $400,000 contract with 20% profit, that's going to make a company $80,000. It seems to be in the sweet spot of where we want to get to in terms of finding the most diverse workforce that we can. I think we on the board hear that and understand that. So, is there anyone else from the public who would like to be heard? Okay. Freeholders, do you have any freeholder comment session? There's any other comments what freeholders would like to make? So I just would like to say thank you for bearing with the agenda tonight. It's a challenge for me a little bit, but that's not. I thank each and every one of you for doing that. I wish, if I haven't spoken to you, wishing each of you a happy and healthy New Year, and looking forward to the year ahead. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing each of you next week. Motion to adjourn.
Move it.